So I just want to have a quick chat about some videos I watched yesterday about Afghanistan, which it was a video that was trying to make Afghans seem nice but also strict. I think they wanted to seem strict. They didn't want it to seem like they let their citizens off easy. You know, they wanted to seem harsh, but they also, I felt, it's horrible what they're doing to the women in these countries, and it's horrible to think that babies every day are being born and being forced to live in these situations. You know, if governments make disgusting laws such as women are not allowed to work, then what happens with families where the father has died or the father has run off and you've got a mother looking after two young children? If she can't work, what do you think, like, the 5-year-old is going to have to be the bill payer of the family? And in their country, yes it is. They would probably say, oh no, they've got uncles and or friends of husbands or whatever, so basically they just don't care. They just think that women should just live off men, and that's what is God's will in their view, and then they don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's completely evil, and it's going to cause a lot of poverty. You know, if kids are working if kids are working, it's because they need the money, and if they need the money, well, why can't the parents earn the money? And then it's just like, oh well, you got these stupid rules that actually ban parents from making money. You know, there was someone who was saying that banning education is the worst thing that this country has done, and I don't think, no, it isn't. Banning them from working, this is the worst thing. You know, the point of going to school and getting an education is so that you can get a better job, so you can get a good pay, earn money, so your kids don't have to work, so you can earn enough money for them. If one salary isn't going to be enough, well, you've got two people working. If one wants to look after the kids and sort of mildly sleep at the same time whilst the other is working, and then swap it over, you know, you have two incomes, whilst also having a childcare. I suppose you might have sisters and uncles that can also look after children, but if you have two working parents, you're going to earn more money, you're going to be richer, and these people, 80-90% of them are living in poverty, and the government is responsible for this, because the government are making laws that are causing these problems. And you know, you could say a lot of bad things about the government, yes, but I feel like there's a lot of governments that make stupid rules, and it causes a lot of harm on the people. And I think banning abortions was definitely one of those. You know, some parents have loads of kids, they don't really want another, they want an abortion, but they're, you know, in the past, a lot of people have been banned from it. They've made it illegal. I'm hoping that this is just all fake, but 10 years ago it wasn't fake. These generally were rules. It was deemed, you know, bad by the Catholic Church and bad by, you know, a ton of people. And then you can watch documentaries where they show all the kids that were being born by drug addicts, and now, and then the children grow up to be also drug addicts and prostitutes, and you know, they live a really harsh, nasty life, and then you think, well, isn't the government responsible for this? You know, just in the same way that these 5-year-olds are working because their single mum isn't allowed to work, and so they have to be the bill payer. You know, you could feel sorry for the 5-year-old that works, but technically the only reason why the 5-year-old is working is because the government have made stupid laws that prevent a better option from happening. And if these children who are being brought into this world by drug addicts and people who know that they can't look after them and you know, want to get an abortion, but they're being guilted by anti-abortion process and the government, and I think it's not so much the government now, I'm sure the government is pushing on it more. You know, I'd like to believe that if there are lots of people that are against abortion, that the government seems like it's against it, but really it's just saying, here's the money, but just don't, you know, keep it on a low. Don't tell people, because we don't want to start lots of protests. You know, they can have a ton of protests that be like, no, I'm against this, and they believe that they're fighting for a really good cause. But you know, I saw a video of a woman who was saying that they're killing babies in Gaza, and it's awful, and throwing blood all over the doors of it, and it I think it's slightly different in Gaza because the lifestyle isn't as bad as Afghan. But from what I've seen, the women are basically prisoners. They're prisoners. They're not allowed to speak. They can get slapped or beaten or whipped just for doing basic things. They're living in fear every single day. And I don't think that killing babies in that country is bad. I think enslaving its people, allowing babies to grow, that is bad, because you are forcing them to live a horrible life of suffering. And it's the same, forcing women who want to have abortions because they think they can't look after them, or just coercing and kind of saying, oh, you know, this kid will hate you, you've killed someone, you've got another kid, or maybe you've got 2 or 3 other kids, and you know, how are they going to know if you had an abortion, that they could have had a little brother or sister? And you know, you can coerce them into having the kid, and then as soon as they've had the kid, you're just like, I've saved a life, aren't I so good? And then it's just like, yeah, well, that kid's gonna end up being, I don't know, brought up by someone who doesn't want that kid, and someone who maybe is a drug addict, maybe has turned to prostitution, maybe encourages the children to go in that same way, so to try and make money. Or, you know, there was a story in that there was a lot of stories in that documentary where the mother went to go and live with an aunt or uncle, or was it a grandparent, and he raped all of them, and there was like 3 sisters and stuff. So and she was, you know, the mother was 16 and stuff, and it's just, you forcing 16-year-olds to have kids. You think you're saving a life, but are you really saving a life if that life is going to grow up in poverty, and there's going to be all these documentaries about how awful things are, and how, you know, you can make a documentary about, oh, look at this, born from a 16-year-old drug addict, and then given to the grandparents, but the grandparents abused them all their life, and you can make a really horrible story about everything that's gone wrong in all these different children, and then you realise there's a pattern. Drug addict mum, father who ran away, she got pregnant through a prostitute for a client, and who doesn't even know who her father is. And you know, every single one of them have come from bad families who bring them up, who wrongly or don't have time for them, or maybe didn't even want them. And then you start being like, well, is this really something that they can control, or is this something that the government can help prevent? You know which kids that are going to more likely end up on the streets. It's going to be the kids whose parents didn't really want them, maybe, or feel like they've ruined their life. If they're struggling to pay their own bills, and now they've got 2 or 3 kids to look after on top of that, they're going to feel angry, and they're going to bring their children up in a way that's like, I don't really care. You ruined my life, so why should I care if I ruin your life? This is how they're going to start thinking. And when it happens over and over and over again, I feel like you can't just blame the bad parents. You have to start blaming the government for not being like, why are we not putting a stop to this? Why are we not forcing abortions? Stop this banning of abortions. That's total nonsense. The idea of banning people from having abortions, that shouldn't be even a tiny thought in people's mind. It should be a choice of whether to enforce it. If someone has got way too many kids, if someone doesn't have a job, the father's walked out, has a history of drug abuse, if they've got a severe illness and are likely to die in the next 2 or 3 years, look at the circumstances. Or if they've had a child and the child's ended up in foster care because they can't do it, and then they get pregnant again, do a test, and then do a test before the baby's born, and if they fail, don't just think, oh, whoopee, we can make money out of it. Because I feel like that's what happened with my sister. She had a kid and then another one, and they knew she couldn't look after the first one. She lost custody, and they still let her have the second one. And then the second one was born. I was hoping to have it, and then the day it was born was like, no, fuck off. We want to make £100,000 a year out of it, so yeah, we're going to have the kid. Fuck off. And I'm going to now hate them bitterly for the rest of my life, and that hatred will never ever go away. That hatred is so fucking strong that it's just going to increase. I see humans as rats now because of that. So well done, you social services. Very good way of protecting kids. Pissed off God so that she wants to kill every kid. Yes, that's a very good thing. But yes, so they do things like this that fuck up people's lives, that make people hate people, that add extra stuff. And I just feel like all this could have been avoided if they just would have done a test and just forced abortions if they feel. If you see a repetitive streak of the types that end up having these horrible lives, then you wouldn't need to make these documentaries about all these kids that have had bad upbringings and gone down the wrong path, because you could have foreseen it. And I know there's a lot that don't go that way, but usually these are the ones that, you know, the parents where they're making an extra effort to raise them and stuff. And I just think if you do a profile on someone and they have a history of having kids ending up in the foster care, you know, I just feel like so many people have a terrible story, and you can foresee these lifestyles that they're going to have, and you can end it. You just need to. Abortion is such an easy thing and such an important thing, but I think there's a lot of people might abuse it, you know, like deliberately not use a condom because they know they're just going to get the funding to have an abortion. You know, I think that's definitely needs to be stamped out. You know, I wouldn't say have a limit on it, but I don't know. If someone wants to have an abortion like 3 years in a row, I feel like it might be an idea to see if you can like do what you do with dogs. You know, literally stop them from having any more. I know there's guys that are actually willing to do it. You know, there's guys that can get castrated or something, is it? Where the tube cuts so that they can't have any kids or more. You know, I think making that seem like a good thing, making that seem like, you know, a positive thing, it's just such a good idea, because kids are such a burden, and they're very expensive, and they can cause, you know, a lot of damage if these kids don't grow up being happy, or don't grow up enjoying their life, and then just turn to drug addiction and impregnating other people and stuff.